Hello, my dear viewer, or viewers, whoever is viewing this video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the value of making and crafting in the classroom, specifically the writing classroom. I love to make things. I love to have my students make things, and they enjoy making them as well. So, this is a practice to me that's really valuable, and I want to encourage others to maybe try and incorporate it or try it out, or just to even see that it's a valuable practice. So, I'm going to be drawing mostly on Making Matters, Craft Ethics, and New Materialist Rhetorics by Lee Gruwell. This is the book that my friend Steven, shout out to Steven, I'll put a picture of him here or something. Steve and I did this for our literature circle for this class, and it was a really great book to read. I enjoyed reading it a lot, and I feel like maybe we didn't get to cover everything I wanted to cover in our presentation, so I am here to talk more about those ideas. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to explain Gruwell's main arguments in her book, and then kind of talk about how they incorporate into my making and craft, both as a student and as a teacher in the classroom, at home, however that works academically. And then lastly, I'm just going to brainstorm some ideas for how I'm going to continue to use craft moving forward, especially next semester, as I continue teaching first year writing and in the future, because I'm going to keep teaching. And like I said, my goal here is to encourage others to try it, see the value in it, and just spread the love of craft. While I talk, I'm going to be crocheting a little sweater for my cat Romeo. The pattern I'm using is from Joann Fabrics. I found it online and I've used it before, so I know that I need to make a few modifications because Romeo is a little bit bigger than the average size cat. I asked my partner Nick what colors I should use, and he said to use the color scheme for the Detroit Lions because he's a Detroit Lions fan. So I got some gray yarn, some white yarn, and the closest blue I could find to Lions Honolulu blue. I got 924 yards of yarn, which is a lot of yarn, and some would say too much, but now I have some extra yarn. I also thought I already had the right size crochet hook, but as I sat down to start recording, you'll see it in this recording, the pink one, that is too big, so I did have to run to the craft store and get some new hooks, but that's okay because they'll be put to use. And I also picked up the white yarn because originally I only had gray and blue, and I'm glad I did because I think the white really pulls the whole sweater together. I did actually have to reteach myself how to crochet because it had been maybe a year since I've done it, and so I just didn't really remember the right stitches. So these first few clips are of me playing with the gray yarn and the wrong sized hook to kind of remember how to chain and how to do single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, because those are all stitches that I have to do in this sweater. And also a slip knot. Forgot how to do that, but I figured it out pretty quickly, so picked that back up, and then I got started. Before anything else, I want to talk about the introduction and why making matters to Gruwell and why she is going to talk about it in this book. Something that Gruwell mentions on the first page of the book is that the digital and the physical aren't as different as we may think. The digital is inspired by the physical, and she also reframes the digital from the computer technology use that we tend to think of when we think of digital, and more towards the literal digits, our fingers, things that we use to make and write and, make sense of the world. And I really, really liked that perspective. And I also really like the perspective she gives on the activity of making as a collaborative effort between multiple parties. Oftentimes, those parties are human and non human. So, the sweater I'm making in this video is the result of a collaboration between me and my brand new size 5 crochet hook. We are both active participants here, and we are collaborating to make a little sweater for Romeo. So, this perspective really highlights the embodiment within making and crafting and physical interactions that are happening while doing this activity. And she concludes this idea with the quote, "Making, in other words, is just as relational as it is material." And this really stood out to me. With that, a huge theme in this book is agency, specifically craft agency. So Gruwell defines craft as a material, process-oriented practice that takes seriously the entanglements of human and non-humans. And I really want to highlight her use of the term process-oriented because that's going to be really important when it comes to making my arguments later on in this video. Also, now I'm sitting back, so you can enjoy seeing my face while I make. The term craft here is also important, and Gruwell brings it up repeatedly throughout the book. It's in the title of the book, so it is important to note. She said it's both a verb and a noun, and that it describes the material practices of making as well as the material results of that making. So my craft here is, hi Nick, the sweater that I'm making for Romeo, as well as the making of that sweater. So craft agency gets deeper into the new materialist rhetoric. It's a term that I was not very familiar with prior to this, so I'll give you a little definition. The new materialist rhetorics upend the assumption that human beings are the sole determiners of the scope and possibilities of rhetoric. Also, quick pause to show you my armhole that I finished. So essentially, through new materialist rhetorics, materials are granted rhetorical agency, which is why my crafting here is a collaboration, because both me and my crochet hook have rhetorical agency in this situation. This approach has political and ethical implications, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, craft in both of its uses, noun and verb, is rhetorical. Moving on, I want to talk about the material relationships that come with craft and making. I talked about this in our Lit Circle presentation, but it definitely is worth mentioning again. Not only are we developing relationships here between humans and non-humans, craft also encourages community and relationships with other humans as well. And here I have completed the other armhole, so I'm like halfway done with the sweater at this point. Gruwell does an in-depth discussion of Ravelry, which is a crafting forum where people can hang out online and share photos and patterns and general tips with one another, mainly about knitting. It kind of sounds like a more advanced crafting Facebook group, which Gruwell does talk about crafting Facebook groups in this chapter, but they're not the main point of it. However, I've never used Ravelry, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about Reddit, specifically r/crochet. And here I'm taking a quick Mac break. Thanks, Nick. I'm not a member of it, but I have scrolled some time on it. This subreddit functions in a similar way to Ravelry. Crafting just isn't the website's sole purpose. Like, you don't go on Reddit just for crafts. Although you could argue that community is the sole purpose of Reddit. Anyway, the sub encourages crocheters to talk to one another, share projects, tips, just general conversation about crocheting. They have flares in the subreddit, which are just like organizational tabs, which include tips and discussion, works in progress, crochet rant, which is, I noticed just people getting mad at their projects and posting about it. They have like special event stuff like Halloween, Easter, funny stuff, Stash Saturday, whatever that is, holiday season stuff. Interestingly enough, they also have a politics/current affairs tab. I haven't looked into that, but I think I will. So clearly they have a lot to talk about on there. A big issue with Ravelry was that it was a majority white space, especially since it's a knitting forum. And, you know, not to generalize, but a lot of stay-at-home white moms and older white ladies just like to hang around and knit all day. Power to them. But this kind of made it exclusive for people of color, and even perpetuated the false idea that Black people don't knit, and other ideas in that realm. The nice thing about Reddit is that it's anonymous, and people usually won't find out who you are or what you look like unless you want them to, or unless they go out of their way to do so. So this makes it a little bit more accessible to minorities that may not feel comfortable or even allowed into other spaces. This is definitely where a lot of the political and ethical implications that I mentioned earlier with craft come from. So people aren't without their biases, and they aren't without politics. I will say though, as I scrolled through some parts of the crochet subreddit, the photos I was seeing were posted mostly by white people or people that presented white. But I didn't look through the whole subreddit, so I can't say for sure that it's a majority white space, but that is just something to note. Okay, let me move on to why I care about this and my relationship with craft as a student and as a teacher. As a student, I have quite a bit of experience with making things, especially here in grad school. Like right now, I'm making this video and also making the sweater, although as I record this voiceover, I've already made the sweater, but in the video, I'm making the sweater, all for a school assignment. Last year, I made a scrapbook that represented my first year of graduate school for a final project. I also made another video last year reading handwritten letters that I wrote to my loved ones, and I made an interactive map that was representative of a constellation. So I've made a lot. I love, love, love multimodal work, and any chance that I get to make something or craft something, I'm gonna take that chance. I love the embodiment of it. Like Gruwell was saying, when you craft, you build a relationship with the materials that you're using. The work I put into crafting and making feels so much more meaningful to me than alphabetic words on paper. Although I do love those as well. It's just different. It's the same reason that I love handmade gifts. They just mean a lot more knowing that someone made this with the intention of giving it to me, and it feels like a piece of them. Like, craft is so intentional and embodied that when I turn something in that I've made and I've crafted, I am turning in a piece of myself. I feel connected to my work, proud of what I've accomplished, and honestly, a lot of times I never even look at the finished product again because it was never about the finished product. It's about the process, like I pointed out earlier. As for teaching, I have a lot less experience with making because obviously I've been a student for a lot longer than I've been a teacher. Personally, I make my slides before every class period, which does fill me with some sort of fulfillment and embodiment that I get from craft in general. I do reuse slides from the past semesters, but I always edit them to fit the personality of the students that I have in this particular class. Also, if you're watching the video and you're thinking, hey, she just skipped a whole bunch of rows of that sweater, I did, and it's because that clip wouldn't upload. But that's okay, because it was essentially just repeating that pattern again. And also add a little picture of Romeo on it, of course. But I also make changes to my teaching practices each semester as I continue to learn and grow. So genuinely, no two semesters are the same. As for what my students have done, I wish it was more, and I want it to be more. I do have a multimodal project each semester, which is the Remix project, Project 4. It is my favorite project, and I love ending the semester with it. In this project, I have them pair up with a classmate, and each of them choose one of their past assignments from this semester to remix, and then they combine these stories to create something new. They can't write a paper, and they can't do a simple PowerPoint presentation, but everything else is on the table. I had some really creative projects. This semester, I had a group make slime based on their two projects. Another group made a 3D map. One group acted out a skit. Multiple groups did a podcast, and one group wrote and illustrated a children's book that was actually really good. And so many more, just fun projects. So on the last day of class, the pairs present their projects to the class, and we have a fun time seeing everyone's creativity and just celebrating the time we spent together this semester. The students love it, I love it, and this semester in particular, my students were really excited about being creative. Also, something I emphasize with this project is the process. I don't grade the final product, and they only get a grade for making something and presenting it. So the criteria is low, but despite this, they still go above and beyond because they want to make something they are proud of. And honestly, writing this part of my little script that I'm reading made me a little bit emotional because they find joy in creating something and being creative and in multimodal learning, and they're willing to put in more time and effort to make something that is meaningful to them and that they're proud of. A brief delay while we watch me finish up the last few stitches of the sweater and cut it off, but I still have to tie it, so it's not done yet. And that's why I love craft in the classroom and as a teacher. And I want to include more crafting throughout the semester for my upcoming class rather than just doing it at the end. Okay, here I am at the end of the road of this sweater. I'm just tying this stuff off and making sure that I didn't forget anything because I definitely forgot to connect the top of it. But here I am showing it off. It's all done, and I'll show you it on Romeo. There he is. Rise and shine, mister. As you can see, he loves it. Aww. Just kidding, he clearly hates it, but he didn't have to wear it long, so he was fine just doing this. You like it, mister? As you can see, it's dark outside. I'm dedicated to my craft. Anyways, just gonna conclude real quick. So, as for what I want to do next semester in addition to my remix project, I'm not exactly sure. I this semester I let my students make some little ghosts while we were doing class, the class we had before Halloween, and that was fun. So I think I might try and incorporate some more stuff like that. I do really, really want to try to make a board game or to have my students make a board game with me or something. I think that would be really fun. I just don't know exactly what yet. But I did make a game this semester and played it with my students about genres, and they had a lot of fun. So I think that they would love a board game. I think more games is kind of what I'm going for. I think the main thing that makes crafting and making in the classroom so appealing to me and to others is just the process. Writing is a process. Donald Murray said it best. So, why don't we teach writing in a way that includes a process? It's me editing. I do just want to say that I don't mean to say that what we do now isn't teaching writing as a process. I think it's more of including this too because it is also a process. I also just think it's fun, and I think students want to have fun and enjoy having fun in college when things are stressful. And I know I like to have fun, and I just made this whole video in like 4 hours, probably because it was fun to do. And so I think the more you're having fun, the more creative you're being, the more likely you are to do good work. I think this book helped me kind of put words to what I was thinking, especially with like the embodiment of crafting, and being one with the work you're doing, and having it be that much more meaningful because of that, and making relationship with the things you're making. I think that was a really interesting way to approach crafting and making things. And so I appreciated this book. I look forward to crafting more, making more down the line. Hopefully, you're inspired to make things, let your students make things. Just enjoy the process of being and making. And that's all I have for you today. So, thank you so much for watching my video, watching me make Romeo a little sweater that he hated, but that's okay because he was so cute in it anyway. I will see y'all later.